In this video, I want to talk about an article that I saw from 2016 about how Canada is, hey, tell him about the trees, eh? Tell him about the trees. And squirrel. Okay, let's get in the car where we can be just me and you, and let's talk about this article that I saw from 2016. Come on. Okay, so this article was in the Financial Post in 2016, and it's really, I think, really relevant today. And of all the videos that we're probably going to do on this channel, this is probably going to be the most important one and meaningful one that would really does need liking and sharing, because we're going to talk about what I just said to myself before: the trees. Canada is full of trees and land. It's the second, we all know it's the second biggest country in the world, right? But there's something about Canada that we need to talk about, and we need to share, and we need the politicians to stand up and listen to us. A conservative estimate of Canada's existing carbon absorption capacity based on land area and the global carbon absorption average indicates that Canada could already be absorbing 20 to 30% more CO2 than we emit. 20 to 30% more than we emit, and that's in 2016. That's before we flooded the market with Teslas and EV cars. Stephen Guilbeault and Justin Trudeau are not even mentioning anything to do with Canada's natural absorption. Using the same calculation, the big four polluters of China, the US, the European Union and India, which together are responsible for a whopping 60% of global CO2 emissions, release 10 times more CO2 than their combined land area absorbs. So those countries, China, USA, European and India, they are emitting 10 times more than they absorb. We absorb 20 to 30 times more than we emit. It boggles the mind that nobody is talking about this. And I know why no one's talking about this, because there's no money, and there's no power in telling people that, Canada Canada's not carbon neutral. Canada is carbon CO2 negative. It doesn't matter about how many cars we have here, just on the, people only live on the south side of Canada, on the border of America. It doesn't matter how many people drive cars and everything in Canada. We're at zero now. How can you be taxing people to get them to a zero that we're already at? Canada doesn't seem very dirty now, do we? No, it doesn't. It's not dirty. Canada is not a dirty country. Canada is one of the cleanest countries in the whole world. Even it's comparable to, in 2016, when they're talking about this, it was comparable to Russia and Russia's land mass and the amount that the CO2 that they put out and what is absorbed. So when was the last time you heard a Canadian political leader, let alone the media, talk about our carbon absorption capacity? Probably never, because we are currently ignoring that side of the equation for a couple of reasons. It goes on to say, first, there is insufficient political will. The government's top experts need a mandate to pursue in-depth measurement of CO2 absorption. Recently, Canada's federal and provincial auditors general announced a joint audit of the country's carbon emissions, but what credible audit would examine only half of the balance sheet? So they only look at what we emit. They don't look at what's been absorbed in Canada. They're just totally ignoring that. There's no reason why they shouldn't audit our absorption capacity too. How much CO2 does our forest and land absorb? Do some trees and topographies perform better than others? In short, what is Canada's carbon balance. Let's talk about Canada's balance, CO2 balance, not tax people into poverty. Let's talk about the balance that Canada has already got between what we emit and what we actually absorb by the country, by what I said earlier, the trees. Let's talk about the trees. Taxing Canadians to try and make the planet Earth greener is futile. It's a futile policy based on a half-blind approach that only considers emissions from our resources, not absorption from our land and forest. Unless we change that perspective, the inevitable result is a drag on our economy, with job casualties, increased costs and lost businesses opportunities, ultimately weakening Canada's ability to compete on the international stage. And for what do we sell out our future? To let the big four polluters off the hook, to be popular with delegates in Copenhagen or Paris. Yeah, we only do it to be popular. Well, this government, this liberal government, are only doing it to be popular with the rest of the world. China and everyone are just going on polluting. They pollute, remember what we said, they pollute 10 times more than they absorb. We pollute 30%, 30 times less than we absorb. So we, as I've said, we absorb everything that comes out of Canada's exhaust pipes and heating at home is absorbed. It's all absorbed. Plus, we have a 30% overlap. It's mental. It's when you read something like this, you realize, oh, hold on, we're just going down the wrong avenue. What we should be doing is going around. They can fly around to these countries, but don't put it on Canadians. What we need to do is fly around these other countries and say, hey, look what you're doing. Maybe you should do something about it. Because look at us. We've got the trees. We've got the landmass to absorb it all. But look at you guys. You're just putting out 10 times more than you can take in. By taking credit for absorption, we win. By negotiating a robust cap and trade deal between nations, we win. By working with countries that share our interests, we win. By getting the credit we deserve and ensuring that the planet's real polluters pay their fair share, we win. So the question is, why do we let our leaders set Canada up to fail? Exactly. With a simple mandate from the government to factor in the entire carbon cycle, our best scientific minds can get to work assembling the evidence to create an appropriate progressive climate policy for Canada. That's what we need, an aggressive policy that takes into consideration Canada's absorption. Anyway, understand that Canada is already net zero with that bombshell. See you next time.